End of year ritual. It's this time of year again. And I was just sitting with myself and saying, wow, 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 what a year it's been and how much I've changed. And that's the part I really wanted to focus on or bring up in the system is before we jump into new year and write, what we'd like to achieve in the year. I think it's really, really important with every system is to first acknowledge what we've created, what we've left behind, who we've become more of ourselves, for example. So, what habits have you released? So, I would invite you to really do a ritual of what you left behind already and who you are and what you've achieved in the last year before we go into new year because we're very much in this a tendency to next next next, but for me it's very important in transformation and abundance is to first accept what I have, and I'm grateful for where I'm at. So I would invite you to do your list up of who were you at the beginning of the year and who are you now? And what topics, we did mom and dad traits, we did ancestral traits. So who were you at the beginning of the year and who have you become? That's the question I feel we should acknowledge in the system because it's like spirit within us, the inner child within us, you know, it was hard, for example, even through the year with all the webinars we did, it was really a big thing. This was not an easy year. And I know myself personally, even the webinars we've been doing over the last few months, for me, they were really, really difficult and challenging because it was opening up so many systems within me. And there were systems I didn't even know were in me, and they start coming up to the surface. It's almost like as clear we get, then we get stronger to go deeper and into the darker stuff and the heavier stuff, and we can transform it much faster. So my recommendation or my invitation for you would be first, if you can acknowledge where you started in the year and then what have you done? Who have you become? What mindsets, what traits have you stepped out of? What traits have you realized? And now you've chosen something new. So I would really invite you to celebrate where you are already, to celebrate who you've become, to almost like tap yourself on the back of on your back and say, wow, you've done really well this year. It was tough, but you've done really well. I'm proud of you. Thank you. And also, for example, with Unity of the Ancestors, I feel it's such a blessing with my ancestors now that I feel like finally I have them at my back and they're behind me and they're supporting me. And that's a huge sense of relief and release at the same time. So I feel a much deeper connection with my ancestors. And I want to say, coming up to the end of the year, I want to say thank you to my ancestors. I want to say thank you. I really value you. And I really value everything that you went through because you've helped me so much. And you've helped me to also find what's in my system, what's in my system. And I didn't know that. I didn't know where it was from. I didn't know who it was from. So I want to say a big thank you to the ancestors and really acknowledge them. And maybe I would invite you to, maybe there was some ancestors that brought a lot of information to you, or you had a lot of traits from a specific ancestor, especially if you have the same name as an ancestor. And I would really reflect on, okay, what traits have taken in from the ancestors and who have I become? So if you imagine like we've uplifted the roots, our ancestral roots, and we've now reflected on our topics, and then which ones have you acknowledged? And then coming into the new year, then we can look deeper into what topics we have at the moment, where we're at, and then where do we want to be in the new year? So before you do the new year gifts, I would say first, acknowledge what you've become and make it conscious in your system and bring that up more about the who I've become and where I'm at. Make that part strong in your system so your system has the willpower and the strength to go into the new year. Because we focus too much on what I want to release or how much work I have to do, and I have not acknowledged where I've come from. I'm weakening my system. So I would first emphasize to all of you to do the ritual and to really acknowledge where you've come from and who you've become, what you've released, what you've realized in the last year, and write it down. Write it down and make it conscious in your system and feel it. When you bring it up, look yourself in the mirror and say it to you. I'm really proud of you. I really love you. And we did a great job together. And the ancestors, thank you, thank you, thank you for supporting. Because the ancestors are speaking through you, looking through you. And this is such an important time of year to acknowledge that and to really look deep into your system and to really reflect. So I invite you to bring up in this webinar all the gifts. And when we bring up the gifts, I'm going to do an activation of the gifts. So when I say, this is who I am, it's got an emotional response on a cellular level. So it's like a new muscle. So I want to flex the muscle in this webinar. So this webinar is about, I want you to know all the points of who you become. So we get to a point of gratitude, and then we spread it through the body, that we become more of that frequency before we come into the new year. So this webinar is about bringing up who you've become, acknowledging it with an emotional response, because that's where spirit takes over your system and recodes your whole system and your entire system. So this webinar is about activating who you've become and strengthening it and reinforcing it before we enter the new year. And then we can go into what we'd like to open up in the new year and create and manifest in the new year. But let's open up and flex these new muscles and embody who we are and open it more and bring it into our vibrational field, bring it into our aura, not just like, oh, I've done well. No, I've done well to the whole universe. I respect myself. I see myself. I'm not ashamed of myself. I love myself. I honor who I've become to the whole universe. So I'm speaking out to the universe. So this is a ritual of acknowledging that you are in total resonance with who you are on a universal level. So this is a ritual and your ritual to really acknowledge who you've become, who you are, and to bring that up on a vibrational cellular level, that it's in the quantum field and it's in every subtle body and every fiber of your being on a vibrational level, and strengthened up in your subconsciousness in every cell of your body, who you are now. And then we can bring in the intention for the new year. So this is an end of year celebration of who we are and who we've become. And then we can step into the new year. So I invite you to be part of this ritual and celebration and opening the champagne to yourself, because you've done really, really a big work this year. Well done. And thank you to our ancestors. And just reflect with the ancestors who you've become and what you've left behind. So I invite you to be part of this ritual. Thank you for all the support over the year, and thank you that we're on this journey together. It's been beautiful, rough, tough, ups and downs, hard times, good times, and amazing times, and such sacred times. So I look forward to connecting with you in this new field of who we are now. Thank you.